We ready to roll? Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate you guys coming because this is about the worst kept secret in soccer. Today we're super excited, another really important day in the history of the Hartford Athletic, and we get to welcome someone that I've known for a long time and that I've worked with from almost the beginning of your career, when he was coaching at Reading United in the Player Development League back in the early days of the Philadelphia Union, and then has run up the ladder and won trophies along the way. So on behalf of our ownership, the Mandel family, all of us here, executive staff and staff at the Hartford Athletic, and for the fans, welcome Brendan Burke. Brendan is our new head coach and general manager, not just a head coach, but will be overseeing all of the soccer operations, player development academy, our youth academy, and everything and anything having to do with soccer and scouting and player identification and all of that. I couldn't be happier. You know, I was at lunch with Bruce, I think this either my first day on the job or my second day, and out of the blue he said, "Do you know Brendan Burke?" And I said, "Wow, do I know Brendan Burke?" We built the Philadelphia Union together and their academy, and really generated some amazing, congratulations on all your success, Brendan. I thought it was unbelievable that Brendan would come here, and then I immediately called him 3 seconds after that lunch, and I'm like, "Hey, I got this project in Hartford," and he was all over it. I won't steal your thunder. You can share with the folks why you're here and why you want to be here. But we couldn't be more happier. I don't think we could have found a more perfect match. Hometown boy coming back to the area to coach the professional soccer team here. So in all respects, it was just such a perfect fit, familiarity of having worked together and built something great in Philadelphia together. So personally, I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier for the club. It's a great day for the Hartford Athletic. Still much work to do, but we definitely have the right man for the job in all respects. So welcome, Brendan.
Thank you.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks.
Great to have
you. I'm excited to be here. This club has had too many of these days over the years. Hopefully this is the last one for a long time. I am a New England native, so this one's near and dear to my heart. This is a really special day for my friends, my family, my wife and kids. I want to thank Bruce and the ownership group and Nick. We've had a long-standing relationship and been very successful over the years when we worked together. My time in Philadelphia was special, almost 10 years there. My time in Colorado in this league in a similar undertaking was special, where the team needed a jolt, a boost, and we were able to provide that. So when Nick called me, yes, I think I hesitated for about 3 seconds before I said, "I'm in, let's figure this out." I was on a new project in Houston, which went very, very well, and I loved my time there, and I'm very thankful to Pat Onstad and to Ben Olsen for understanding that I wanted to be home, and they made this happen, and they gave me one of the best years of my career down there. So thank you to those guys and the entire staff there in Houston. Just a magical year there, really. But now it's time to bring that to Hartford, and it's time for Hartford to be well and truly on the map. We have a lot of work to do, and we know that. But if our time in Philadelphia taught us anything, it's that when you do the heavy lifting for a number of years, it's very rewarding, and it leads to big things down the road, not just for you, but for everyone around you. So I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to get to work, and again, it's great to be home.
Awesome. Happy to take any questions.
Brendan, Donald Murray from the Hartford Current. First thing you mentioned was that there have been obviously a lot of turnover of coaches here in a short amount of time. From across the field, what have you seen in this franchise that works or doesn't work that you can change or that could, stop that revolving door?
Yeah, I think some of the coaches that have been through here are very good coaches in their own right. I think the margins are very fine at this level and certainly above it. And I think attention to detail sometimes can push you over that line, and you can go from what's viewed as lack of success to success pretty quickly. But there's no quick way to get there. There's no easy way to get there. You need proven players, and the guys have been working hard to provide us with guys that have won in this league consistently. That was one of the first things I said to Nick and David Goldstein with the GFG group, who's helping build out the roster here, is that I want winners, and I want guys that I've worked with before, that I know I can trust, that I know are going to put in the hard work to get us there.
Brendan, how important was it to have the general manager duties as well as the head coach?
That's always been important to me. I didn't always have that when I was a younger coach. Back in Philadelphia when I took over the second team in 2015, and Nick gave me that opportunity. That was a huge step for me, and I got to work under a lot of experienced sporting directors in the years after that. Ernie Stewart is the one that really stands out for me as a guy I've learned a lot from, about roster building, about player identification. Nick certainly has his own pedigree in that regard, but it was exposure to a few different people that I was able to glean things from that meant a lot to me. And Ernie really stands out in that regard for me. Chris Albright is another one who's I've learned a ton from over the years, and Jimmy Curtin I got to spend almost my whole development with as a coach.
Jason York from the New England Soccer Journal, can you expand on your relationship with Jim Curtin in terms of the influence he's had on you philosophically, tactically, and then even break that down a little bit into this year with Ben Olsen too?
Yeah. Very different coaches, but both great guys. Jimmy and I started working together in the academy, actually, in Philadelphia under Ian Monroe, who I also owes a lot of credit to where I'm at now, and certainly where Jimmy's at too. He gave us a good structure, but Jim and I were working shoulder to shoulder. He had obviously had a far better playing career, and was just coming off the back of that. So we were kind of learning on the fly together about how to structure sessions, timing, delivery, presence, everything that you have to learn as a young coach. We kind of learned together, and Jim just took off. Then we were assistants in the first team together. Nick gave him his first opportunity to be a head coach in the league. And we kind of went on different paths from there, but we've stayed in contact, and I've certainly learned quite a bit from him over the years. That when you're a coach, you're taking it from someone else, and he learned from Bob Bradley and a few others. So I was just lucky to have exposure to those coaching trees very early on.
Jason, it was an interesting time in the Philadelphia Union when these two guys, Brendan and Jim, came up. Jim had just retired from the Chicago Fire, great career. He became our under-17 coach, I think, and then you got pulled in to develop what is today probably the preeminent youth development academy in the United States. Certainly in the MLS, they're producing players now, and these guys were the founding coaches in that youth academy.
Brendan, go ahead.
Brendan, you said it yourself, the year in Houston, one of the best of your career, and it was really a turnaround that team hadn't seen in so long.
Yeah.
What was it about Hartford that made you want to leave that and come take on this role?
Yeah, it was an amazing year. I mean, we won the U.S. Open Cup. We were in the Western Final out at L.A. What an environment. That was only a week ago now, or a week and a half ago. And Ben gave me a lot of latitude to train the team every day, and he's very much a player's manager, and he's great with the video, and he's hands-on. And so I learned a lot from Ben, probably more so on the player management side. And that was a really good experience. Pat Onstad deserves a lot of credit for retooling that roster. When I arrived in Houston, it was 15 new players and 15 new staff. So everyone was kind of handpicked for their role or responsibility, and everyone fit into their silo, and that's credit to Pat and Ben for identifying the right people for the right roles. And then we have really good players. You know, when you have Hector Herrera and Artur running your midfield, there's a lot you can do with game planning and flexibility, and there's a lot of other really good players, guys like Griff Dorsey and, you know, Steve Clark, guys that I'll keep in touch with for a long time. So it's sad that it was such a short time, and I really didn't want to leave that environment because the environment was so good and the staff was so cohesive in that way. But this is home, and this is a job that I've wanted for 6 years. It just never really lined up right for me to take the opportunity or for them to take the chance on me, and now I just have more experience and I'm more comfortable in the role.
Brennan, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Given your portfolio of responsibility, how important is it going to be to sort of build a bottom to top program from the academy up to the first team in terms of, you know, having a continuous philosophy of next, you know, how important is that going to be to have something that's, you know, continuity wise? Because the club has experienced a bit of tumult in that regard.
Yes. It's a long-term project, what you're referring to in terms of the club-wide goals. My focus early on will be the first team. The fans here and the staff here, for that matter, the front office staff, have done an amazing job of supporting this team, and they deserve a winner. They deserve to turn the corner results-wise and to feel how much fun it can be to be part of a winning franchise, and that's my first and primary focus, and that's going to get all my time and attention the first year. Quite frankly, I don't have enough bandwidth to go anywhere else with it, but Nick is focused on building out the academy, and long term we both have a lot of experience that can help in that way, and I think it's the right thing to do anytime you have a pro franchise in the city, certainly of this size, with the number of youth players that we can give opportunities to, meaningful opportunities to grow and develop much faster than what's been out there in the past in this area. That's close to both of our hearts, so that's something that I do want to focus on, but I'd be lying if I said I'd be focused on anything other than the first team in the first year.
Hi, Brendan Sonia, WFSB. Welcome to Hartford.
Thank you.
I am very curious, with your time in Philadelphia and time in Houston, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from both of those stops that you can apply to your time here at Hartford right away?
Yeah, structure and accountability are probably the two biggest things. You know, when a group of players are accountable to each other and the staff, there's no need to raise your voice. There's no need to, you know, ask guys to do things that are outside of their skill set. You have to identify the right guys, bring them into the building, and then there has to be a mutual accountability that we trust that the guy next to us is doing everything he can to prepare for the next game. And I trust that the way we've built out this roster so far, or continue to build out this roster, is with that in mind. Character and timing and experience. Again, winners. Players win soccer games. Coaches just help get them set up.
Brennan, what do you think people will notice right away in terms of your style, your signature, you know, the kind of soccer you want to play here? What will people see right away?
It's going to be an athletic team. We're going to be fast in most positions. That doesn't mean in every position, but we'll be able to break people down one-on-one, and we'll try to find new ways to isolate other teams. There's a lot of good defensive teams in the Eastern Conference of USL, and I've had the benefit of working for about 5 years in the Eastern Conference and 2 in the Western Conference. And there is a bit of a difference. The game's a little more wide open in the West. So we're gonna have to do a lot to break teams down here. You know, you're talking about Louisville and Tampa and Indy and certainly Pittsburgh. Great respect for Bob Lilly. Those are really well organized teams, big, athletic, committed, So I think what you'll see is an adaptability. I've been exposed to a number of different managers, as you mentioned before, and styles, and I'm comfortable shifting in and out of different styles at this point. And I trust that the IQ in the team, although we are going to be on the younger side, the roster will skew quite a bit younger as you see the announcements come out. I trust that these guys have the IQ to be adaptable as well.
I mean, you came into this job pretty far into the offseason. It's been about a month now, and the club's already made 4 or 5 signings. I just wonder, have you had any involvement in that in the back end, or is this kind of brand new to you?
Some I've been in contact. It was a long process to go through the interview process, and we were very upfront with the guys in Houston, and they were awesome about giving me a little bit of leeway there, but we wanted to be respectful, and I was only focused on coaching Houston. What I did say to David at GFG, David Goldstein, who's done a phenomenal job building out this roster so far, or I should say turning it over, because there were spaces that needed to be cleared. Between David and Nick, they've made a couple great signings already, and they're guys that I have familiarity with. Like Nick said, it was the worst kept secret in the soccer community for quite a while.
Nick, can you just update us on the construction of the roster, with the changes that you've made, and what's to come?
Yeah, so like Brendan said, it was a long interview process that we went through, and obviously being in the business for a long time, you know a lot of people. So when I got appointed, there was a lot of outreach, but of course there was only one choice in my mind, which was Brendan. So Brendan, you know, a lot of conversations about, you know, roster and style of play, and one of the things that struck me when you look at the Hartford Athletic is its teams never had a real identity, and we needed to create that identity. So one of the first things we did, and we did it with ownership too, I failed to recognize the Calfiore family is here with us, and Bruce, and we sat and we talked about like what is going to be the identity of this club, and we created with Global Football and David Goldstein, we created criteria. First criteria of what the identity of this club should look like, and what do the fans want, and what should be the character of this club. And then we went by position and created a checklist, basically, like what does a Hartford Athletic player look like as a left back? What does a goalkeeper look like? What do the center backs look like? What do we want our attack to look like? And Brendan was involved in a lot of those discussions through that interview process. And then we went about, we've actually signed more players than we've announced. So new announcements coming up, and it was a hellacious bit of work. I mean, I think we've got 15 or so players signed under contract. We may have only announced 5 or 6. I lose track of it. We're announcing players every day, but that, you know, that is a painstaking process. You know, you have to watch video, you have to interview the players to get into their heads and see if they fit that criteria of what you want to be. So, like, a lot of people think like, oh, 15 contracts, that's easy to sign. Yeah, sure, I signed them in one day. But there is hours and hours and days of research and work and all of that, conversations through the interview process with Brendan to look at this and rebuild this roster. We feel pretty good about our starting 11 and what we have, and we were talking this morning, Brendan feels pretty good about, you know, some of the guys coming off the bench. We're going to be young in depth, so that's, you know, probably going to be a phase 2 rebuild. You can't do everything in one season, but the attention to detail was extreme over the last 90 days or so since I arrived in early September, and it needed to be. This team, these fans deserve an attractive, fun to watch, winning, competitive team, and we feel pretty good we're going to deliver on that. More announcements to come on players.
In terms of the rebuilds, how much are you able to tell us about returning players? Are we going to see, you know, a good amount of players come back, or is this going to be a pretty much brand new roster?
We'll take that, Coach.
Well, right now, I believe it sits at 4 potential returning players.
We've announced Danny. Danny's coming back, and he's training with a vengeance, so, which is great to hear. I think some of the players returning, the ones that are gonna be returning are re-energized and rejuvenated. When I informed the returning ones that he was gonna be our coach, there were a lot of smiles. Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming to